Yeah. That's...
Hi, great. Thanks for everyone coming here. I'm James Spencer, the writer for UK horror scene. I've been chosen by Gil to do this interview with Laurence Harvey. Deliberately scheduled so I missed the second half of the derby, which is a 0-0 at the moment. But anyway, we'll... yeah, exactly. Anyway, we'll soldier on anyway. So, Laurence, before Human Centipede II, what were you doing currently? Were you sort of looking, what, an actor looking for work, or...?
Well, I started out as a performance artist. I studied fine art at college and was doing performance art pieces in front of the public since about 87. Then I was working with an artist called Stephen Taylor Woodrow who did the living paintings, but he started doing stuff for Number 73 and then What's Up Doc. Is this on? Can you hear me? Okay. So yeah, then I started, after college, I started working in children's TV with Stephen and his partner Peter Cox, and we were doing sort of. He did an array of characters for What's Up Doc, which was on at the same time as Live and Kicking. It was a kind of Saturday morning show. And they came up with characters like Gaston the Frog, who was a frog with like amputated legs, and going around in a wheelchair and so on. And Mr. And this character that had a waistcoat made of bacon and a kind of ski mask for a face. And yeah, then they brought in Laurence the Gnome, which was me, and then so all the characters I played with Stephen and Pete were like little boy, little old man, Laurence the Gnome, Laurence the Elf. So I was kind of getting typecast, but at least I was getting work, and it was on Saturday morning kids shows. And then from What's Up Doc, I went into Parallel 9 and did The Little Green Man for one series on that. Parallel 9 was a kind of science fiction themed Saturday morning show. So I was in the third series of that. And it seems to be every TV show that I start working on gets cancelled. So we also, around the same time, we did pilots for comedy shows on Bravo and stuff. And again, they got cancelled. So yeah, I was doing... So I went from college doing work on kids' TV, then I got an agent and doing adverts throughout Europe and America, and then in 2001, after the Twin Towers, the bottom just crashed out of the market in advertising. Right. So I was living in London and I had 5 lean years of doing... I mean, by this stage I was also doing a lot of theatre in London, which didn't pay or barely paid. So yeah, I had a few lean years in London. So I moved out of London back to Wigan, and all of a sudden got a call from my agent about the casting for Human Centipede II. So
yeah. So did you actually see the original film beforehand? Because I think you said the other night that you actually saw the film before the audition.
Yeah, it was on the same day. Yeah. Basically, my agent rang me up about it, saying there's some people in Amsterdam that want you to be in a sex film. Really? You know? I mean, I'd done a play called The Man with the Absurdly Large Penis, but it was an absurdist play. But I kind of thought, well, it might be typecasting again. But what it was is he'd gone to their website and it says Adult Entertainment Amsterdam, because what Tom and his sister, who produces the films, Alona, what they'd done prior to Human Centipede II, they'd done like 3 kind of black comedies, Gay in Amsterdam, Honeys, and something else which I can't remember. Yeah, so they were doing black comedies, and then they'd done Human Centipede II, which was on the festival circuit when when I got this call from my agent. I asked him what the title of the project was. He said The Human Centipede II, and I'd heard about The Human Centipede being on at Fright Fest.
Yeah, yeah.
And I sort of went online and looked at all the reviews, and they were saying it was Cronenbergian body horror and so on, which it isn't, but that perked my interest enough to say, get me that casting. So, so I didn't see the first film until the morning of the casting, because they were screening it for people that were also interviewing for cast and, as well as auditioning cast. They were also seeing people for crew. Crew at the same time whilst they were in London. So just to get everyone on the same book, as it were, they screened the film for cast and crew, potential cast and crew that they were seeing. So I saw it, and you spend I think my own reaction was that I spent the first half hour trying to decide whether it was a good film or a bad film, because Dieter's performance is so great, but it's also so campy. And some of the other acting just seems a bit kind of ropey, but then it kind of makes sense as well. So I didn't know whether it was deliberately a spoof of horror films, but having gotten to know Tom, that's kind of what he wanted. But I think the shoot of the first film was kind of problematic, and I think maybe some of that comes through in the film.
Yeah, from what I heard, when he did the first film, apparently he had a lot of auditions for the roles of whoever was going to be in the Centipede, and apparently a lot of people walked out just because of the idea that what they were going to be doing. I think apparently on your audition, didn't Tom Six ask you to rape a chair, basically?
Yeah. Well, what happened was, it was normally you go in for an audition, and if they don't like you, you're in and out within a few minutes.
Yeah.
If they like you, you're there for about 10 minutes. The audition with Tom, I was in there for 50 minutes. They ran out of videotape because they were videotaping what you're doing, and so on. And me and Tom just got on like a house on fire. We both hate cheese. It's like the food stuff, I'm not cheesy films or anything, but so it was kind of, it was the best casting I've ever been to, basically Tom, there was no script at this stage. Tom basically talked through the film scene by scene, and as he was talking through, I was going, oh God, that's like the All Night Long trilogy, or oh, that bit reminds me of Society, or so you're going through the film, and he was saying that he wanted it to be gorier and more over the top than the first film. And it was very much
like any good sequel, you've got to make it more gory and over the top.
Well, I think he just wanted to have a different feel and a different kind of look, So, so the first film, I think, is about a spoof on the tropes of the horror film. The second one's very much about the tropes of reception. The basic premise is that kind of tabloid notion of somebody watching a horror film, and then copying it. So it kind of takes the mickey out of that by taking things to kind of grotesque, Grand Guignol-esque kind of levels of gore and messiness.
Considering the material you were playing with, were you how do you approach it? Because obviously the scenes you do in the film are quite horrific, so to speak. So were you did you have any qualms with that doing the actions, what the character does, or were you okay with the portrayal? Because some of the acts he commits in the film is...
you've got to look at my video collection. It's just, it's the kind of films I like. So, I'm kind of a big Hong Kong Category 3 fan. Like Untold Story, and Ebola Syndrome, Dr. Laugh, all those kind of things. Rent to Kill, and Run to Kill as well. But so it's I kind of like those kind of over the top, violent, gory, nasty films. I think it's kind of growing up in the video nasties age. and because we didn't have a VHS player then, so now I'm kind of living out my video nasties era.
And were you surprised when eventually the film came out and was banned by the BBFC for a brief time, and then?
Well, it wasn't banned. It was refused certification, which is equivalent to a commercial ban, but it's not actually banning, as the BBFC would say. So, I was surprised by, what I was surprised most by was the press release they put out. I thought it was unfortunate that they have to detail the entire plot in terms of what happens, but I didn't kind of mind that. What I kind of thought was offensive was the personal slander against Tom, the filmmaker, and also they kind of read the film as a sexual fantasy, which I kind of think is a weird reading. I think it's a power fantasy. It's not a sexual fantasy, but I mean, as a power fantasy, there's sexual elements in terms of Martin's own link to his own sexuality. I mean, the bits that were cut out, or the bits that I thought were going to be cut out, and which were the 2 instances of sexual violence against himself. So there's a scene with Martin masturbating with sandpaper, and a scene where he wraps barbed wire around his penis, which are both cut out of the British version. So. And were cut out of the American cinema version, so it's not, and it's cut out of the Australian version, and cut out of the German version.
But apparently you can actually get this film online fully uncut.
Oh, yeah.
So at the end of the day, does the censoring, does it really hinder it, or does it makes it even more, give it more publicity in the age of the fact that it's different now, when we used to have videotape where you could literally, I used to take trade with a guy through Darkside magazine, and now it's different. You can actually go online and download something fully uncut, even watch a New York Ripper on YouTube fully uncut as well. So do you think the censorship is sort of at the end of the day a moot point, because at the end of the day you're going to get to see it uncut somehow, somewhere?
Well, I think what the kind of BBFC's initial reaction means is that people are going to illegally download it. That's the problem. I mean, when you've been working on a film, then to have it kind of undermined by the illegal trade so quickly, because it's become such a cause célèbre kind of thing, is kind of disappointing. But I can understand it to a certain degree.
Yeah, that BBFC guy isn't here, is he still? Or?
No, but I mean, the thing is, Bounty and Eureka made a legally available download that was uncut, and it's uncut in America, and it's uncut in Austria as well. So yeah, I mean, it is available out there.
So after doing Human Centipede, did it sort of open you up to more offers for genre films, or did it give you sort of a platform to sort of
Not for a little while. I mean, what I kind of thought the offers would start rolling in. But like we were saying, when, I don't know if anyone was in the Jennifer Lynn talk, she was talking about casting agents not watching horror films. That's very much the case here. And I think in Britain it is very much about, if your face has been on TV, then you'll get cast for TV parts. But if you're in a horror film, they don't know horror films, so therefore you get nothing. Basically, all the work I've had since then has been through contacts made, personal contacts made, through going to conventions and film festivals, and meeting directors that are fans, and stuff like that. So, I mean, I met kind of Ruggiero and have become friends with him, and hopefully we'll be working together. The Soska sisters.
Yeah, because you did the ABCs of Death.
The ABCs of Death too.
Because they were a really good pair of directors. I mean, they're fantastic. American Mary is such a great film. So
yeah, they're big fans of the Human Centipede II. Because when I went to Australia to promote Human Centipede II, the distributor Monster Pictures, they also distributed Dead Hooker in a Trunk, and also they were eagerly awaiting American Mary, and they were telling me that the next film was going to be brilliant by then.
Yeah.
So I was already kind of looking forward to American Mary like a year before it came out, and then when it came out and Fright Fest did,
I saw the Fright Fest was fantastic. Yeah.
Well, I was in Bristol when they had the Fright Fest tour.
Oh yeah.
So I saw it there, and I met Jed and Sylvia, and they just went, "Laurence!" and came out with a stack of 50 of the sick bags that they'd used to promote the film in Australia. So they'd obviously been talking to the Monster Picture guys too. So it's fun.
So inevitably you done part 2. Now you're in part 3, which you're still awaiting.
Yes.
Somehow, do you know when it's actually coming out, or is...
No, I have no idea. I don't know why people ask the actor when the film's coming out.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's down to the distributors, Do
you think part 3 is going to come in with confrontation with the censors like part 2, or is it going to be less of a sort of a...
I don't know. I mean, the part 3 isn't as gory as part 2.
Right.
But it has a few moments that are kind of perhaps more extreme.
Yeah.
I mean, the tagline is 100% politically incorrect. Again, like the first part's humorous in a kind of horror spoof kind of way. Second part's humorous in a kind of dark black comedy, silent comedy kind of way. The third part's more of a kind of outright satire kind of thing. So each has its own kind of feel and look, and part 3 will be it'll be interesting.
Because I've read a brief synopsis about it. Apparently you're starring with Dieter in it, and someone coined the phrase of you're sort of a Lauren Hardy act in the sort of film.
Well, I think that was the idea, but I don't think anybody told Dieter that. to Dieter, I think it's his film. I think from my own experience in the film was, I think people get a kick out of how many different acting styles you could put against Dieter. So yes.
And is it true that there's going to be a 500-person centipede in this?
Yes, it is.
Brilliant. Well,
I mean, even Martin couldn't manage 12.
Yeah.
He only gets 10. Yes. Yeah.
So obviously, doing that, you've obviously gone on to another film. Another film that I'm interested in seeing myself personally is The Editor, by the Astron 6 guys. They did Manborg and other such film. And
again, this was when I was in Australia.
Yeah.
They were showing me the Astron 6 shorts, raving about Father's Day. I picked up a copy of Father's Day, loved it, made friends with them on Facebook, sort of said how much I love Father's Day. And then we were shooting a short film called Call Girl, which is doing the festival circuit at the moment.
That's fantastic. Yeah, good film.
And it's and that's with Tristan Risk from American Mary. So we were working together on that, and then whilst working on that, we were also shooting the second unit for the Soskas part of ABCs of Death 2. Tristan was then flying off to be with the Astron 6 guys to shoot The Editor. I told her to tell them I'm a big fan. Then a few months later I get a phone call or I get a message on Facebook from Adam, and he says, we've got a part for you if you're interested, but we can't afford to fly you out to Canada. And then all of a sudden a Canadian convention said, we'd like to fly you out to Canada. So it all just kind of sorted in really nicely, and I just love the Astron 6 guys. I think.
So The Editor, is it a sort of? I've heard from what I've read about it. It's a giallo.
Yeah,
is it a spoof on the giallo genre, or is it sort of a homage to it? Or?
Well, it's a very affectionate spoof. And it's from people that obviously love and know the genre very well. And what they've done is they've kind of written kind of awkward English kind of dialogue. I know one of the lines I had to say was, "I know not of whom you speak," because the whole kind of grammar thing is messed up with when you look at
So
the way Italians translate.
Yeah, it's keeping in tradition of Giallo word of sort of slightly badly dubbed, and it comes across as really modern. And
then there's always a murder that's never explained by the final explanation.
Yeah.
So there's that in it and so on. So yeah, it kind of it's a film about the absurdity of Giallo whilst also keeping true to the spirit of it. So.
Awesome. So overall,
so yeah, go and see The Editor. It's really worth seeing. I'm the weakest link in it. So.
Overall, being in this Human Centipede 2, has it kind of made you sort of a well-known, recognised drama star? Do people come up to you in the street or in Wigan even and sort of say...
I get people following me around Asda. I get people, like teenage girls, just peering around the corner in W.H. Smith's, taking a photo and then going scurrying off. The other day, coming out to the train station, there was these guys that kind of walked ahead of me, then stopped, leant against the wall, waited till I passed, and then all of a sudden came strolling past again, and then sort of kind of looked at me and then kind of looked away. And then, so I walked past, and they kept doing this really odd kind of stalker kind of a bit like the world's worst stalkers, you know. But yeah, I mean, generally people are really nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, occasionally you get things that kind of just are...
Stuff sent through the mail that you don't want to have, or...
Well, luckily I haven't had that, so yeah.
But overall, I mean...
Instead, I get Lloyd Duff online. I've got this stalker who's a gay Australian chubby chaser who talks about eating Martin Snickers in a kind of very sexual way. I'm just loath to return to Australia.
That's what I was going to coin the next question. The fact that, do you wonder who watches these sort of films? Because that's basically, at the end of the day, Human Centipede, the idea behind it is disgusting.
Yeah.
So, but there's a certain thing with the film going public, and especially with horror genre audience who are attracted to this idea of disgust. You always wonder why these films attract people, and because the idea overall is basically not like you go into watch a normal film where, oh yeah, it's got a great plot, and you know, these films are based on the idea of a disgusting idea of people basically eating shit at the end of the day.
Well, it's not about... Well, I'd argue that it's not about eating shit. It's about kind of being forced to eat whatever, you know, and the fact that you have your individuality taken away from you. There's in fact, there's an article, a piece by Jack Sargent about the fact that the most terrifying thing about the Human Centipede is that kind of stripping away of identity kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yes, the shit's the opposite part of it. But you know, I think horror has, as a genre, there's different types of effects that horror can do, and I think one of those effects is to disgust. I think it's with the Human Centipede films. I think there is a kind of reason for that. Like I said, with the second one, certainly it's a kind of about aiming for that kind of Grand Guignol-esque kind of OTT Rabelaisian kind of effect, in order to point out the ridiculousness of that kind of simple cause and effect. I watch horror films, therefore I'm going to make a Human Centipede.
Yeah. Fantastic. So anyway, I'll open it up to the floor. So anyone have any questions?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, nice to meet you, Laurence.
Nice to meet you.
Loved Human Centipede 2.
Good.
Just occurred to me, as we're sort of face to face here, watching you on stage, that in the past year we've seen Anthony Hopkins and Toby Jones both play Sir Alfred Hitchcock.
Yes.
And I wondered if anyone had ever approached you.
No, but it has been mentioned online, as well as the Penguin. But I tell you, speaking of Toby Jones, because Philip Seymour Hoffman and Toby Jones are two of my favourite actors. I mean, sadly, Philip Seymour Hoffman's down dead. But Toby Jones, I used to go up for the same parts with Toby for theatre in London, and then suddenly his career just went like that. And yeah, so mine sort of stagnated for a bit and then was gradually increasing now. But I recently worked with Uli Lamel for, on the remake of I'm not sure I meant to say, but anyway, the remake of the Bogeyman. But he's doing a film based around Andy Warhol's factory, and he wants me to play Truman Capote. So so yeah, I haven't done Hitchcock yet, but fingers crossed. But I am doing Truman Capote.
Okay, anyways, yeah.
What's Tom Six like to work with? Because in interviews he comes over as very sort of hyperactive and very sort of enthusiastic. Is he sort of like that on set?
He is, yeah. He's like a big kid that's had too much orange juice and tartrazine. He's got this kind of puppyish kind of, oh yeah, right, now we're going to do it. Yes. And the shot will be set up, and he'll go behind the camera and go, oh, that's so disgusting. And you'll know he'll be absolutely thrilled with what's.
Does he bring his dog to the set?
Does he what?
Does he bring his dog to the set?
No, he doesn't. So.
Do you think Tom Six has a sort of a slight sort of Lars von Trier era about him? Because he's sort of a like sort of showman shit sort of era.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lars seems more kind of deliberately trickster.
Yeah.
Whereas I think with Tom, it's very much a kind of jokey kind of.
The first ever trailer of Human Centipede 2 was him in a parking lot talking about how he's found the sickest person.
No, me talking about.
Yeah.
So I did Tom's voice in this.
Oh right,
trailer.
really?
So, hello, my name's Tom Six. You might remember me from the Human Centipede. So it's a yes. That's,
I didn't know that. No,
that's me. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, when people talk about me not speaking in Human Centipede 2, if you haven't seen the film, I play a character called Martin, who doesn't speak on screen, but obviously does speak kind of off screen. But there is a moment where he's having a dream and his father's voice comes over, and that's me. So.
That's the father's voice.
Yes.
Oh my God, right.
I mean, the line of the film. Should I say it?
Yeah, go ahead, say it.
Stop them tears. You're only making Daddy's willy harder. but I think. My suggestion to Tom was that it should be, come on, suck the salty lollipop.
The film's on next, by the way. So, any other questions? No? Another one? Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
just to say, who are some of your favourite genre directors then? Sort of in terms of Italian, sort of bar and like that?
Well, my favourite directors. I wouldn't describe myself as a genre fan. I'm more a fan of cinema generally, but I mean, I like cinema that has an effect on the audience and doesn't treat the audience as passive, which is why I think horror kind of why I'm attracted to horror and extreme cinema. So my favourite directors would be like sort of T.F. Moose, who did Black Sun, The Nine King Massacre, and Men Behind the Sun, and Trilogy of Lust, and Lost Souls, and that people like, but you know, also like Guy Maddin, who did Careful, and I like his kind of pastiche of kind of silent film and I think, you know, I think the saddest song in the world is absolutely brilliant as well. It's just I like directors that have sort of strange and crazy ideas and sort of manage to pull them off, like the beer legs in the saddest music, and but also like Alex de la Iglesias, who he's got a new film out called Witching and Bitching.
Oh, it's a fantastic film.
Yeah. Well, I love Day of the Beast and 800 Bullets.
Oh, yeah.
And so on. So yeah, I mean, and Jodorowsky, of course. I mean, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't like a lot of mainstream horror. Like, you go to conventions and you just see people that are just Friday the 13th, and Michael Myers fans. It's like, I'm not a big fan of those films.
Okay. Anyone else? Yeah.
The problem with the casting directors that you mentioned on Friday, and did that apply to the post-children's career or the post-Human Centipede II? Did they look down on children's television in the same way that they perhaps look down on horror films?
No. I mean, I haven't really been picked up by casting directors. There's been a couple that kind of liked what I was doing around the kind of children's TV and advertising kind of era. But I think since, I just think with a film like Human Centipede II and its kind of public awareness kind of thing, that's a casting director might have picked up on that somewhat. But yeah, they don't. It's kind of like they've got a blind spot to things. So.
Okay. Yep.
Have you faced any backlash from people who've actually sort of been offended by the film, or basically you're breaking those kind of taboos?
You mean idiots?
Yeah.
Only on Twitter and Facebook. I just tell them it's a film, and I was playing with latex and Kensington Gore. It's nothing to do with me. It's the character. Blah blah blah. It's real. There is.
Okay, and one more.
What would be your dream role as an actor?
Martin. No, I mean, when we did the casting, I kind of came out of it thinking, I want to be involved with that film in some way. I didn't think I'd get the lead role, but luckily I did, and it's been fantastic. Other than that, I would like to do a film based in the kind of freak show, because I did a MA thesis on the relationship between freak shows and contemporary performance arts, and I think there's a lot to be said about freak shows and identity politics and so on. And some of that is coming through with American Horror Story now, and with politically minded actors like Matt Fraser, who's in American Horror Story freak show. So a lot of that kind of dialogue is kind of interesting to me, and I'd like to do a film project that's kind of to do with that. But I think I would really like to have I'm very much besotted with Peter Lorre and his kind of the way that he isn't just a horror actor but kind of works in thrillers and so on. I kind of would like to do something more, have a career more like that. Kind of thing.
Were you ever considered for offered a role in American Horror Story freak show at all, or because that's sort of a
no.
that's a shame, really. Yeah.
No, I mean American TV just haven't had any impact yet.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway, I'll have one more question. No.
So yeah, 8 features, but no TV.
No TV.
Yeah.
Apart from children's TV.
Yeah, in the past. They won't have me back now.
Right, so I think we'll call it a day, yeah?
Yeah.
So thanks very much for
Thank you.
coming along.
Okay.
Thank you for attending.
Okay, thank you very much.
Been a nice guest. Thank you very much
Okay,
indeed.
thank you. That's very impressive.